Hi, everyone, and welcome to Practice Growth HQ. Now, before I even talk about our topic today, let me simply say this. I know, as a matter of fact, and we're up to episode 130, 140, something like that, we have never, ever covered this topic before. And before I tell you what it is, some of you, when you hear it, you're going to go, Angus, this is Practice Growth HQ. What on earth are we talking about this for? I want to tell you that there are massive benefits for you, listener, personally, and also for your business. Have I got your interest? So, what is the topic? The topic today, believe it or not, is happiness. How to be happier at work, how to make your workplace a happier place. And the perfect guest for that would be Matt O'Neill, who is actually a happiness coach. Can you believe that? He's helped more than 100,000 people live more joyful lives. He's the author of Good Mood Revolution, Igniting the Power of Conscious Happiness. He's got a podcast all about happiness, but he's also got a couple of businesses, and he uses this happiness to build those. So all the way from Charleston, South Carolina, welcome, Matt.
Oh man, Angus, I am so happy to be here on the show. Thank you for that great introduction. And man, you are so right. So, this is about how to grow your practice. My company has been an Inc. 5000 fastest growing company. We were named the number 6 fastest growing company in the entire state across all different industries, all different companies. But what I'm the most proud of is my company was named the number 1 place to work out of 470,000 small businesses in the state of South Carolina. And nothing really improves your bottom line like retention of amazing people. And nothing hurts your bottom line worse than turnover of amazing people.
Wow. So there we are. We got your interest, listeners. I felt we would. Look, Matt, we like to start with a fast five, kind of quicker questions and quicker answers to help the listeners get to know you quickly. So, question one, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Waterford, Michigan.
Okay, I know where Michigan is. I don't know where Waterford is. Is that a fairly small place?
It's an hour north of Detroit. So it's a suburb of Detroit, and it's cold there, and it
Yes, it is.
snows, and it's also pretty in the summertime. It's a really good place to grow up.
Okay, I watched some American football, some NFL during the week, and there was snow at both the games on the weekend. So, yes, a pretty cold time of year. Question two, favorite book besides your own?
My favorite author is Michael Singer, and he wrote 2 very important books for me. One is called The Surrender Experiment, which is his life memoir. And I got so many distinctions out of that book. The main thing being that things can come into your life that you didn't want to come in, and they can be exactly what was needed for your life. And so if you could just surrender to what is showing up and wonder if maybe this was sent to help me too, that life can be a really beautiful thing, even when it doesn't go the way we want it to. So that would probably be my number 1 book.
All right, The Surrender Experiment by
Michael Singer.
Michael Singer. There you go. Definitely have not heard of that one. Life happens for you rather than to you. At question three, what's one of your superpowers?
I have a superpower of seeing the best in people. I've always had a superpower of positivity, but I can use my superpower of positivity to see positive attributes in other people that they don't know that they really exist. And I think that's been one of the reasons that it's a great place to work too, is I can see the best in the people I work with.
Oh, I love it. All right. Question four, something you wish your 20-year-old self knew.
At 20, I was so ignorant. At 20, I thought I knew everything, right? And I wouldn't go and tell him anything specifically. I would just tell him, you're loved
Okay.
and you're accepted.
Okay. Okay. Very interesting. All right. And then finally, question five, something you're grateful for.
I'm grateful for you today. Grateful for
Okay.
that you've given me this opportunity to have this great conversation with you on your platform with a person that's listening.
There you go. I'll admit to you, listeners, I've never had anybody say that on a podcast before. So well done, Matt. Now, Matt, let me just push back for a second because some people listening to this are going, oh, happiness, blah, blah, blah. Fairly famously, one Australian Prime Minister, I have a feeling this was in the 1960s or 1970s, said, life was not meant to be easy. Now, he wasn't necessarily speaking to happiness, but the sentiment was everything's not going to be great. Like, why should we be happy?
Happiness is the purpose of our lives. And this doesn't mean easy and happiness actually don't go together
Mm,
necessarily. There's a book I've just read recently called The Comfort Crisis.
mm,
And in The Comfort Crisis, the author argues that our comfortable lives are taking us further and further away from fulfillment. And happiness is not about sitting on the couch, eating Doritos, not doing anything, watching Netflix. In fact, if you do that for a couple of days in a row, you're not going to feel really happy. You're going to feel unfulfilled.
mm,
So a lot of times the things that make us happy running this company, it's really freaking hard.
mm,
It is really hard to run a company really well. But
mm,
who I have to become to lead 100 people, like the type of person I have to become in order to be worthy of leading 100 people, I can become really happy at growth. Growth and progress can make us really happy. Happiness and ease don't go together necessarily, but there are many successful people who work their tail off who are very happy with the results they're getting and who they've become.
Yeah, that's interesting. Look, the truth is, about 2 years ago, I read a lot on happiness. So I read the happiness hypothesis. There are a lot of different books. I think one of them is called Solve for Happy, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
Yeah.
And I heard of things. I reckon this is Michael Hyatt's definition, and he says happiness is making progress towards a meaningful goal. Like,
Mhm.
happiness is a lot more about this than I do, but happiness is a byproduct, isn't it? It's shoot for happiness. If we shoot for hedonism, the pursuit of pleasure, it probably doesn't achieve it, does it?
Yeah, pleasure and happiness are two completely different things.
Okay, all right,
Pleasure
here
is
we go.
short-lived. Yeah, we could eat a chocolate cake and we could feel pleasure while we eat the chocolate cake. And but then as soon as the cake is done and we're full or maybe over full, the pleasure is gone. My book is about 16 different emotions. The first half of the book is about the primary eight negative emotions. There's only eight bad moods. Those are shame, guilt, hopelessness, sadness, fear, desire, anger, and pride. I saw in every other negative emotion that you can name is going to fit into one of these eight categories. So
Mhm,
they're all just variations of these eight negative emotions. The first piece of authentic happiness is about identifying what are these eight negative moods, understanding how do I get into them, and then understanding how do I get out of them, because we cannot be angry and joyful at the same time. I
mm,
can't be full of fear and anxiousness and feeling totally peaceful and calm and content at the same time. Those two things don't coexist. So the first half of my book is about identifying the eight negative moods that and how they show up and how to get out of them. The second half of the book is about eight positive emotions. Now, there are more than eight positive emotions. I've selected eight emotions that make a whole lot of sense. That if we lean into these eight positive emotions, we're going to have a whole lot of happiness in our lives. But at the top of these emotions are the emotions of gratitude, love, joy, and peace. Anytime we're experiencing gratitude, we're gonna feel pretty freaking good. You want to call that happy? Sure. When I'm feeling grateful, my heart is full of happiness. Anytime we're loving, we feel loved, we're expressing love. A dog comes up and gives us a hello when we get home, and we're happy to see that dog and we love that dog. We see our child and we love our child. Like our heart is full of happiness and we're feeling love.
mm,
Joy. Now, joy is different. Joy, there's a pervasive feeling of just joy when we see something beautiful, like a sunset. Or you can't really describe it. What is that feeling when we feel something profound, like something bigger than ourselves? But when we're feeling that feeling, whatever that emotion is, that's a form of happiness. And then peace. Man, if you've just got peace, if you've got a level of peace that I'm not anxious, I'm not worried, I just feel at peace with where life is. Everything is peaceful today. That's a happy feeling too. What is this definition of happiness for me? It's feeling one of these positive emotions that any one of which we could say that's a happy feeling.
mm. It's interesting. Look, I have to say, for me as a business owner, peace would not be one that I'd be feeling very often at all. There's a part of me I'm in a competitive space. I've got team members, I've got clients, like, let's go, let's make things happen. And I can see the benefit of peace indeed, because then you can make better decisions in a sense. You're coming from the right place. But it's interesting that you say that's one for me immediately. I go, no, I don't think I spend a lot of time, certainly not while I'm working. Weekend, maybe different story.
I had a coaching session with two people this morning about peace, and we were talking about financial peace. And in my coaching session was it's okay to make peaceful financial choices. When I'm far away from peace, it's because I'm having financial issues.
Okay.
And I'm worried that, hey, maybe we won't be able to make payroll, or maybe we're going negative in revenue. Like that's going to take my peace. So one of the things I've done to really increase my peace as I go after big goals is I've made very peaceful financial decisions. I paid off my house. Now, I could have, my friend said, you could have bought a bunch of investments and you could have leveraged that 3% interest rate you had, which was like free money because inflation is higher than the interest rates you had. And that was such a stupid financial decision that you made.
Mm.
And I said, my peace is worth more than an extra 3% that I could
Okay.
have gotten on that money. And so peace is an emotion that we all want, and we can definitely chase giant goals without a frenetic pace. We can achieve massive things and feel peace at the same time. It's just like a goal. It is an emotion to prioritize.
Okay, very interesting. Now let's just go back a step, Matt, because there's something you said in the intro that I'm sure the listeners are like, tell me more. Of what did you say? 470,000 odd companies in the great state of South Carolina. Your company was ranked #1 best place to work. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
We all want to know, how did you do that, Matt?
Every single thing, a company is only as good as its leader's psychology.
Okay.
And any problem that's going on in a company, it comes down to the leader's psychology. Anything that's going well in the company, it comes down to the leader's psychology. I went to a Tony Robbins business mastery course 7 years ago, and he said the chokehold of every business is the leader's skills and psychology. And I'm like, is that true? Is that a true statement? He said it, and I wrote it down and I circled it. I'm like, is it a true statement? And then when I thought about every one of my business experiences, I realized that maybe that person stole from me or that person made a mistake. I was the person that hired the person that hired them.
Right.
So if there were issues, it was ultimately coming from everything I had set up, from the culture, everything I had created. So we did have cultural issues at that time. And I was blaming some other people. Maybe they were too lazy or they weren't working well enough. And then when I heard this statement that the chokehold of every business was the leader's skill and psychology, I said, aha, every single thing is created by what I've created, and then it cascades down from what I've created. So I started to work on my psychology like a freaking madman. And that's where really a lot of this happiness research came from. As I became a more of a psychological giant, I'm not saying that I'm a genius, I'm just saying I started to get very emotionally aware.
Mm.
I made better emotional decisions for people that worked with me. And what happened is we became a much better place to work. A lot of the people that were like just in it for more and more success weren't a fit with who I wanted to become, and they started to self-select themselves off the team. I started to select people who were more harmonious and kind, and then our culture became really harmonious and kind. And then we became the best place to work in the state. We've been named in the top 10 best places to work out of all those companies for 4 straight years. So it wasn't just a one-time flash in the pan goal. This is a sustained success. Why I care about this so much, the cost of any employee turnover is 4 times their annual salary.
Mm.
And I've heard this statistic from a few different sources. You can Google it to figure out why those numbers are correct. But when you think about the cost to go out and acquire somebody, if they're the right fit, and then the cost to train them, and then the ramp up time of lost productivity that it took while you train them, and then ramp up time of the people who had to train them, and then all the knowledge they acquire over a couple of years worth of time, and then you lose all that knowledge and all that growth that they had, it ends up being 4 times the cost of their salary is what you lose every time you lose a good employee. So becoming a happy place to work is probably the most profitable thing you could do.
Wow. All right. Well, we're going to spend some time here. Matt, at the time of recording yesterday, we had sort of an executive team meeting in my company. And one of the things that we did is I got everyone to write down a couple of people in the team that they would be gutted if they left. It was a really interesting exercise to go, And the one thing that was, I think, quite helpful about it was that for the most part, we're pretty much on the same page. We were really clear about there's certain people, and it was, as you described, it was like, oh no, that'd be terrible. Therefore, what can we do to make the workplace better for them? So, in your book, or maybe through your podcast, have you got some, like, you got me, Matt? This sounds like something I want to implement in my company. I'm genuine. I understand that it starts with me. It starts with the person in the mirror. There's a book called Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink, where he
Love that
basically,
book.
yeah, I mean, he basically says what you said, which is, in a sense, everything that goes wrong in your company is down to you. What do we need to do? All of us want happier workplaces. What are some
Mm.
practical things that we can do starting today? What?
Yeah, I created core values, 5 core values, when I read Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And those 5 core values we look at every quarter. I've got an executive team. We follow the Entrepreneur Operating System, EOS, from Gino Wickman's book, Traction.
Yes, we were just
And
reading it.
so,
We are just reading it yesterday.
oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. So we implemented this probably around the same time, 10, 12 years ago. We started with a system called Mastering the Rockefeller Habits, written by Vern Harnish, but it's the same process. It's a quarterly offsite meeting. Here's what I do every single quarter before we go offsite, and I just have my executive team. So the top 7 people in the company, we get together every quarter, but I send a survey out to all 90 people
Mm.
in the company. And I say, it's just 3 questions. What do you appreciate about what we're doing? 2, what would you change? 3, name, optional.
Huh.
And we send that survey out 3 times. So they have adequate chances to fill out what they appreciate, what they would change, and if they want to or don't want to put their name down. Then at the executive meeting every quarter, we read every scathing comment. And it is so hard. It is because we give our heart and soul. All we want is this to be the best place ever to work. And sometimes we just get torn apart. And as the owner, who this is like my baby, it's like somebody calling my baby ugly.
Yeah.
It hurts every time. And it is the most powerful thing we do for culture. So the people that we work with know we read every single response. They know that we take everything into consideration, that we care about, first and foremost, that this be the best place for them to work.
Mm.
And then when they make a suggestion that we don't like to hear and we want to get mad and say what they don't understand, we come back and we say, is there some merit here? What could we do? What could we do different about this? And some of the greatest innovations that we have every year come from the negative feedback.
Mm.
And then I have a company address. And at the company address, I just say, hey, here's the reality. 4 different people were upset about this thing that's going on. And this is the way that we're working to improve that, to make this a really great place for you to work. Now, this is crazy difficult for prideful owners, and I'm a prideful owner. We think we've built something beautiful that everybody loves, and they should appreciate how hard we work and how hard we all work for them. So we don't want to hear their negative criticism because we're like, but you don't understand. You don't understand how hard we're working for you. They don't understand, and they're going to quit. And if you just want the resignation letters and you want to deal with 4 times the cost of their salary and turnover, then you won't do that exercise. But if you care more about being the best frickin' place to work and retaining amazing people, you're going to give them an opportunity to voice their concerns anonymously, because they don't want their name to be associated with some negative things they have to say. And then you'll take it really seriously. So we have 500 like external clients a year. So 500 real estate clients.
Okay.
But my real clients are my employees.
Wow.
And that's a shift. So I see my clients as the people that work for my company. And if I treat them like gold, they'll treat the external clients like gold.
Yeah,
And it's worked.
as soon as you're saying that, I'm imagining this in my own company. In fact, I'm fighting hard to get back into that podcast because I'm like, Wow. Oh, what's the implication of that? Or how are we going to go and implement? And I dare say the listeners are doing that as well, thinking it is very confronting. And you are 100% right. And I would say, in some ways, one of the toughest things, maybe even in life, is where your intentions are good. You tried to do the right thing, and the feedback you get is that you've done something bad, and you go, that's not fair. Like, I really tried to do the right thing. It's one thing to say, my lovely wife of 30 odd years to go, hey, you didn't put the trash out or whatever. And she asked me, I didn't do it. Like, fair cop, governor. I agree. I'm in the bad there. But where you've actually tried to do the right thing, and then you get that negative feedback. I can see that's quite confronting. And yet, that's the price of excellence. That's the price of getting yourself to this incredible spot. I really love that idea. Let's talk some more
I'll,
about that.
I'll give you another practical tip. I put right on the wall what I want, and I decorated my office with words. In the kitchen, it says, culture eats strategy for breakfast. I put it in the kitchen because we get breakfast in the kitchen, but I mean it. I'm saying culture is number one for me, beyond strategy. And I just put it on the wall. When you walk in my office, the number one core value of the 5 that we have is kindness, treating people kind. That means treating my employees kind. That means treating our clients kind. That means me treating people kind. There's days as owners, we're stressed out and maybe we're not kind. But you walk in my office, big block red letters on the wall, it says kindness. What happens when kindness is on the wall? Everyone starts to act kindly because we see it. The other word that's on the wall is integrity. Now, a lot of companies say, oh, we work with integrity. I put it on the freaking wall.
Yeah.
And I put it on the wall because a lot of times you'll have a choice and you'll be like, what should we do? It's a gray area here. And I'll have one of my staff members call me out and they'll say, it's not gray. What's the honest, integrous thing to do? And it doesn't take too many of these times to start saying, okay, the right thing to do here is this and that. It just starts to become clear. So I recommend no more than 5 core values. I recommend every 90 days you review them and you say, are these still the core values that make the most sense for the company we aspire to be? Is kindness, is integrity, is fun? These are 3 of our 5. Are these who we want to be? And then sometimes we say no. Sometimes we say there'd be a better word here. And I've changed a core value maybe once every 3 years.
Wow.
And we just say, we can't have more than 5. So if we're to put this one, and fun is a new one.
Right.
So fun came in last year. And to get fun in, we had to bump one out. And we had 5 that we really liked. But as a team, we said, which of these doesn't fit as much as fun? And so we bumped out accountability. Accountability meant a lot. It still means a lot. It means I'm going to do what I said I was going to do. I'm accountable. That's a big piece of who we are. But I'm like, for me, again, we're going back to like culture eating strategy for breakfast. If I have people that are kind, integrous, and are having fun, my culture is rocking.
Yeah.
And when my culture is rocking, I don't need this like disciplined accountability as much as I need people that are really enjoying what they're doing. Because when they're enjoying what they're doing, our business is doing really well.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I actually have 2 companies. The one that's the older of the 2, we've got 5 values for that. One of our values is fun. And I learned something from a consultant many years ago that I've just kept doing, which was a concept developed by Toyota, where they'll get every team member to vote on how we're living our values. Because one of the characteristics of being Gen X, which I certainly am, is what they call keeping it real. And so I have no appetite for lip service. In fact, I hate lip service. I hate going, oh, there it's on our wall, it's on our website, here are the things that we do, and here's our mission statement, and blah, blah, blah. Like, if that's not actually happening, I just want to tear the thing down and start again. And so the technique that Toyota developed, which we use, and I've used in every position I've had for probably 15 years ever since, is every week, every team member votes on how we're living out values. And what we do is we say, okay, the value of fun, how do we live that in the last week? And each team member they'll hold up either the shape of a circle, a triangle, or a cross. And a circle means good, triangle means okay, and a cross means not okay. And what this is doing in a workplace, particularly, dare I say, in healthcare, a bit more hierarchical, maybe people are less likely to want to tell the truth. They don't have to speak up and say, hey, boss, we're not living the value of fun. All they've got to do is hold up their hands with a cross sign or a triangle sign. And then once you're measuring those things every week, then each week you say, okay, today we had, and you just record the averages. Never record individual votes. Never, ever ask people why they voted the way they did. But we'll say, okay, guys, look, this week across our 5 values, we voted 4 circles and 1 triangle. And last week it was 3 triangles and 2 circles. So it looks like things are a bit better. Would anyone like to comment? And I've found that enormously helpful over the years. The one part that is a little challenging sometimes is that you say, would anyone like to comment? Of course, no one does. Sometimes they do. You get certain personalities that will, and then I'll say, look, I'm going to ask an individual to comment. But yeah, that really genuinely living the values is fantastic. But one of the things that you've triggered for me is actually changing the value. And that's something I've never done in 10 years. So that's definitely something worth looking at.
Yeah, we tell a story. When we used to meet weekly, we would tell a story every week. But I love what you're doing. It's phenomenal. You're asking your people to, and then if fun is not being lived, if you have some X's and you've got some triangles, well, you can inject more fun into your culture. You can say, all right, what are some things we can do to fix this? But yeah, another way that we can ensure we're living these values is to ask people to tell stories. So stories really connect with people. So every quarter, I ask the team to share one story of them witnessing someone living one of these values. And I don't dictate which one. And then before the all-day strategy session, we have a company lunch, and more people than just the executive people show up to the company lunch. And at that lunch, we all share a story of us witnessing someone embodying one of these values. And so that's one of the ways that we make sure it's not lip service, that we're actually living it. And then we share these stories. And it's always fun because the person that gets singled out for being fun, they feel really good. Oh man, Danny planned just the most fun Christmas party ever. And the whole, like every single detail she had was just amazing. Danny feels good. So that's one of the ways that we make sure we're living them. But it is important not to just put it on the wall and then say, oh, I did that exercise.
Yeah, job done. Yeah. No, absolutely. It's interesting. I'm just reflecting on my own company. Very good book called Vivid Vision by Cameron Herold. Basically, he gets you to describe quite vividly what your company is going to look like in about 3 years' time. And I did that, and we went through that with the team. And most of the fun stuff that we do in the team didn't come from me, even though fun is one of my personal values. And so at the start of every team meeting, we have a fun quiz on anything. We've been having them on Christmas carols lately, or songs by pop stars, or geography, or whatever. And it's someone's turn each week, and we spend the first 5 or so minutes of every team meeting having this quiz. And
oh, that is so fun.
Yeah, and there's a lot of trash talk going on as well amongst the different team members, which is part of the fun. And then tomorrow we've got our quarterly celebration. My team's all virtual, and so we have a kind of themed celebration. Tomorrow it's Chinese, so we'll get dressed up in Chinese gear, and you go and get Chinese takeout, and the company pays for that. And then the people who are running it they'll do a bit of sort of trivia about a country for 5 minutes, and then we play some games, and off we go. So
I'll tell you what, Angus, that is the way to have an amazing culture virtually. That's incredible. The fact that you're getting them all to buy Chinese and that you're paying for it, and that everyone's enjoying Chinese, not in the same room, but virtually, and dressing the part. And man, that's next level culture. That's really, I think the person listening needs to be taking notes about how I can make my culture stand out. There's a book called First Break All the Rules. And in that book, the authors talk about the 5 reasons people leave their jobs. And it's not money. Money is one of them. It's one of the 5. I think it's number 4. But we always think retention is because of pay. And we always think they left for a higher paying job. Yes, they did leave for a higher paying job. Of course, if they're going to leave, they're going to go take a step up and get a higher paying job, but that's not why they left.
Mm.
So the number one reason they leave is the manager.
Mm.
They don't feel respected, seen. They don't feel their voice matters. They don't feel that they're making a contribution to the end means of the company. They don't feel connected, that they're being treated the way they want to be treated. And typically that's autonomous. So the reason they stay is they're respected enough to have freedom to do their job the way they want to. That us as leaders, that we say, I trust you. This is the result. Of course, I have a high level of respect for the result, but I trust you to figure out your way to the result. And I'm not going to tell you how to do it. And if you want some direction, I'm happy to sit here and give you the support. The number two reason that they stay is bonds with other people.
Mm.
So friendships, authentic friendships at work. That's why they stay. And then they would leave for the opposite, toxic relationships at work. So they're leaving because of a toxic manager situation where they don't trust them and don't give them freedom, or toxic friendships, meaning you've got some people in your culture that maybe aren't the type of people you want there. One bad apple is ruining the bunch.
Mm.
And they're staying because of a manager who respects them and gives them autonomy and people in strong bonds. The third reason that they stay is that they're given all the tools and resources to continue to grow. So I've taken this list and I'm like, how do I do this? One, I want to give a tremendous amount of autonomy. I want to tell you what the objective is and then tell you you can figure out the best way to do it. Happy to give you ideas if you want, but I just trust you. I trust that you can figure this out and go to it. And they're like, wow, I get to use this creative ability that I have. I get to use my freedom. They trust me. Holy cow. Two, I'm trying to create situations like you just talked about with this fun Chinese thing and giving other people the idea to come up with the trivia where they start to create their friends and their banter themselves. Now you're manufacturing it.
Mm.
But your manufacturing is now creating banter where now their friendships are getting tighter because you're putting an emphasis on culture. Then the third thing is they want to grow. So we usually lose people because they think I got as far as I can go. And if I want to keep going, I have to go out.
Yeah.
So our annual review process is a big piece of this. At the end of the year, I don't do all the annual reviews. I do annual reviews with 3 people, and then those people do 8 reviews and so on. The biggest question I ask in the annual review is, what are your next career goals? And then the next question is, how can our company support you with training, resources, and what you need to get there here? And I make it very clear. I want you to grow here and never stop growing here.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Wow.
And then at the end of the year, they say, I want to learn this. I want to invest in this training. I want to go to this conference. And I say, yes. So the conferences cost money, the training costs money, the mentors cost money, the coaches cost money, and none of it costs as much as losing a great employee.
Yeah. Wow. Gosh, we've covered so much, Matt. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. Honestly, I'm going to go back and listen to this interview several times because there is so much in this for me. And I dare say if there's a lot here for me, then there's a lot here for the listeners as well. Because, there's just so many things you're saying. I'm like, we're right on the cusp of that. For example, we've just implemented in one of our teams quarterly development discussions. And I was like, I'm speaking to the supervisor. I said, basically, don't you dare just go through the motions here. This is people's lives we're talking about. They invest way too much of their time just to go through the motions, like genuinely find out what they're interested in. And what was curious is one of the team members said, look, actually, I'd be more interested in moving from this kind of role to this other kind of role in one of the other companies. So switching companies. And so the supervisor said, and I said, oh, well, you can't really do that. And I was like, no, I would rather take them through the process of, let's see if we can find a way to help them. They can sit with our other person, who knows, one day a month or something, because I'd rather have them inside the organization than outside, even if they jump from organization A to company B.
Yeah, and you're so right, because somebody that doesn't want to be in the role that they're in becomes that toxic number two. The toxic person, if they're staying because of money, and this is, as I said, the mistake is we think that if we just pay them more, that they'll stay. If they really don't want to be there because we got the first three things wrong with the manager, the people, or the growth, and they stay because they feel like they can't leave, they become toxic, and then they start pushing everybody else out. So you're absolutely right. If they say, I'd rather be at the other company, and yeah, that's a hassle, you get them out of a place that they're not fully fulfilled and get them into a place that they are fully fulfilled, then they become a culture ambassador because now we've got them in the right seat. The fourth thing is money. And I don't pay the most, but I don't pay the least. And I say, what is average wage for this role? And how can I be 5 to 10% above?
Okay.
And it's not crazy above, right? I just don't want to be at, okay, if I'm going to bring somebody in at this role and I bring them in at 65,000, am I okay paying this person 70,000? For me, that's a yes, because a new person I've got to offer 65,000 to, they're not as good as this person that's been here. And so I would much rather just pay a little bit more than what the market is because this person's worth more than the market's worth to me.
Interesting. Matt, I have to say this interview has not gone how I imagined it would, but in many ways it's been much, much better. But unfortunately, we have run out of time. For people who are interested in learning more or getting in touch, what should they do?
Yeah, I talk about how to be happy every single week on Good Mood Revolution podcast. So if there's a company leader or just somebody in general that just wants to elevate their personal happiness, it will elevate the happiness of everyone around you and who works for you. That'd be a good place to jump in. And then if you're looking to read about it, my book, Good Mood Revolution, is on Amazon, and it's a good entry point into the work I do.
Okay, that's fantastic. Matt, look, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you, man.
All right, everyone, we have covered a lot there, haven't we? And so my question to you every week is, as the saying goes, knowledge is not power, it's applied knowledge that's power. So what is the one thing you can do as a result of what you heard today? Make sure you go and implement that before you go into the next thing. Look, finally, if you got some value from what you heard today, then just give us the encouragement to bring us more great content every week by leaving us a lovely review. Otherwise, catch you next time on Practice Growth HQ.